Welcome back to Math Concepts. We are going to continue our study of logic. Now remember, the whole purpose of this course in Math Concepts is to introduce you to mathematical structures that are different than the ordinary arithmetic. So we studied the structure of set theory, where our objects were sets. And we had the operations of intersection, union, and complement. Those were operations we could do with sets to make new ones. In the context of logic, the objects we work with are statements. And we have operations that we can do on these statements. We have negation, we have and, or, we have a conditional, and we have a biconditional. So we have 5 operations we can do to take statements and make new ones. In this video, we're going to continue to talk about the operation of a conditional, and we will discuss how to make truth tables when your statement involves a conditional and some other operations. In a previous video, we looked at the basic truth table for a conditional statement. Here we'll look at some more involved ones that take into account the other operations. So let's go to the document camera and work on some examples of truth tables with conditional statements. Okay, so the key idea for this video, after you're done watching it, you should be able to write truth tables that involve conditional and biconditional operators. Okay, so these are the basic truth tables that you need to memorize. This is how the conditional operator works. Okay, you have the antecedent, you have the consequent. And the truth value of the conditional statement depends on the truth value of the component parts. It depends on the truth value of the antecedent and the consequent. If they're both true, your conditional is true. In fact, the only time the conditional is false is when the antecedent is true, but the consequent is false. Okay, so that's your conditional, and it's usually written in words if P then Q, where P and Q are whatever statements we're working on at the time. This is the biconditional, sometimes called if and only if. Notice it has a slightly different truth table. Compare the two, especially right here. Okay, the biconditional is true when P and Q have the exact same truth values. Okay, so if that's the operator you're working with, then you should follow this rule for determining whether your biconditional is true or false. So let's get to an example of working on a truth table that involves a conditional. Okay, so we're going to complete this truth table. Not P or not Q implies not P and Q. So as with all truth tables, I kind of write that statement out, but spread out a little bit so I can do my steps. Okay, you really need to work on your steps when you're doing something like this. Okay, now we're going to do the work in parentheses first. So we can work on this, we can work on this. Okay, let's work on this first. Not P. Okay, that's going to depend on the truth values of P. So I'm looking at this column over here, and since I had a negation, I'm going to do the opposite truth value of whatever I had here. Same thing here, except I'm going to be focusing on the truth values for Q. Now I'm going to apply the OR operator, so let me just kind of annotate. Oh, and I would also note this is the thing I'm going to do last. I need the truth value for this part, and I need the truth value for this part before I can deal with the conditional. So I just made a note to myself, that's going to get done last. Okay, so I got this, now I can fill out the values for the OR operator. Now remember, the OR operator is only false when both of the inputs are false. So we're going to have a false in the first row, but true everywhere else. Okay, so this part's done. Now I work in the parentheses over here. Truth values for P. Once again, I'm just going to copy these down, reminding myself, so I've got them right here, truth values for Q. Copying those down. Now I apply the AND operator to these two columns. So this was fourth step, fifth step, this is step number 6. We're applying the AND operator. Now remember, the only time the AND operator gives you a true is when both of your inputs are true. So the only time we're going to get a true is up here. So now I'm looking at that, and I'm going to take the negation of what I just did right there. Because it said, okay, do this, do P and Q first. We got that. Now take the negation. Okay. So now what I'm looking at is column 3 and column 7 together to fill out the implication. Okay, this is the kind of punchline right here. Okay, so this is my antecedent in column 3. This is my consequent in column 7. Okay. And looks like I'm going to get all trues here. Okay. Look at that. All trues. This is a tautology right here. If you go back to the a previous video, you'll remember a tautology is a statement that has all trues. Okay? And the reason I'm getting all trues here is here I got antecedent false, consequent false. Look up here in the basic. False and false gives me a true for your conditional. Okay? And in these other steps, true and true, true and true, true and true. Okay, so the only time I would get a false for a conditional is if I had an F over here and a T over here. And I don't have any of those, so I'm getting all trues. Okay. How about we try one more example of a truth table involving condition. Okay, so let's work on this one. Complete the truth table for P implies Q and Q implies P. Alright, so once again, I'm going to write that whole thing out. Kind of give myself a little padding here. Okay, now this is the thing I'm going to do last. Okay, I'll need to work in the parentheses first, and then out. Okay, and when you have brackets, they're just kind of like parentheses. It's just that if you put parentheses next to parentheses, it gets a little confusing. Okay, so we're going to work in here, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to finally do this. Okay, so truth values for P, true, true, false, false, just copying down this column. Truth values for Q, true, false, true, false. Now I do the implication. So let me label here what I'm doing first and second. Now this is my third step. I am applying the rule for a conditional statement. Now you remember a conditional statement is only true when the antecedent is true but the consequent is false. That's the only time I get an F here. Okay? Otherwise I get a T. Okay, let me copy down Q again so I have it. And now I'm going to use these two together and apply the AND operator. Okay, this is the result of the work in parentheses. I got to do that and this. And we're looking for them both to be true. True. False. True again. False. Okay, the AND operator only gives you a true when both of the inputs are true. And we're looking at these columns here. So there they're both true, so we get a true. Both false. Both true. Another true. One of each. That's a false. Okay. We're getting close here. Copying down the truth values for P again. Okay, so this was what? This was my fifth step, and that was 6. So now I'm going to take this column here, and this column here. And we're going to do the conditional operator. Okay, so true, true, false, true. Okay, here is my antecedent. Here's my consequent. True implies true. That's true. False implies true. That's true. Remember, whenever the antecedent is false, the implication is true. The only time the implication is false is when you have a true antecedent and a false consequent. So once again here, antecedent false, so the result is true. Okay, so this is my resulting statement. Okay, so not a tautology this time. We have a mix of true and false values. Okay, so a couple of examples there of how to work with truth tables that involve conditional statements. Okay, remember, you need to memorize those basic truth tables. Now, if you are ever asked to do a truth table that involves a biconditional, you just need to follow the rule that we've got right here. Okay, so memorize both of these basic truth tables, and then you can use that idea in any truth table that involves either a conditional or a biconditional.